We're gonna make meatballs today, but we're gonna do them a little differently. This is a loaf of Italian bread that I cut into pieces, and I did this 2 days ago, and then I cut off the edges right here. I'm just gonna put a little bit of milk in there, just to kind of rehydrate them a little bit. So we have all our ingredients to make meatballs. This is pretty standard ingredients. Most of you guys will probably recognize it. Yeah, we're gonna make plenty more meatballs on this channel. There's like 10 more versions that I do. I love a Sicilian one with raisins and pine nuts. I know some of you might not like that. I have 3 eggs. We have the mozzarella. I stopped cutting up the whole block. I think I have more than enough. I have the breadcrumbs that are rehydrated with milk. I have 1 pound of 80-20 chuck, and then I have 1 pound of ground pork. Places around here will sell a meatball mix. They'll do beef, pork, and veal, but a lot of people aren't eating veal these days, and I don't make it because my wife doesn't have it and my kids don't eat it. This is typically what I use is 50-50 beef and pork. I have parsley. I have 1.5 cups of Pecorino Romano, and I have 2 cloves that have been turned into garlic paste. So we have 2 pounds of meat. I'm gonna use 1 teaspoon of kosher salt. Beef in general, you wanna season with 1 teaspoon per pound. That's a good general rule to follow. But since Pecorino Romano is very salty and we're using 1.5 cups, we don't need that amount. So we're just gonna use 1 teaspoon here. I'm just gonna put it over the beef and pork to start. Okay, that's 1 teaspoon. Exactly 1 teaspoon. I just measured it with my hands. 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper. I'm just gonna mix this around just to distribute that salt and pepper. You don't really wanna over mix. They'll tend to get tougher that way. I wanna distribute the salt and pepper here, but I'm gonna kind of stop around this point. They're gonna get mixed more when we add our other ingredients in. All right, then we can just add the rest of everything in no particular order. I broke the eggs already. I have 3 eggs here. I'm just beating them up. It makes it easier instead of throwing them in there, but you can absolutely throw them in there. Get the breadcrumbs in. All that cheese, all the parsley. Probably the only controversial ingredient I'm adding to this is gonna be the garlic paste, and I really do think it makes a really nice difference. Try to distribute that. You don't want that to anybody to get a really big bite of garlic. The egg is not to give flavor, it's to bind it together so the meatballs don't fall apart. Ideally, you have a larger bowl than this. I'm using this kind of just so you can see it. You can see through it, but you know, if you got a bigger metal bowl, use that. And then with your hands, get in there and mix it all together. Try not to overmix, but definitely get it distributed. So if you're like, right now, see how it's fairly wet. You could, at this point, you could add a little bit of dried breadcrumbs to extend it. And that's the whole point with these ingredients. You can, if you want more meatballs, you can definitely add more breadcrumbs. You know, you reach a point where there's not as much meat flavor anymore, and it could make them a little tougher, but you can absolutely do that, especially if you got a big family and you know, trying to maximize the amount, especially with meat costs. Right here I have water, and you dip your hands in the water and then you roll it, and then nothing's gonna stick to your hands. You can also use oil. You can get like a 1/2 cup, 1/4 cup of oil, dip your hands in that, roll it on, and nothing will stick either. I just use water, it's easier. Get your oven set to 400 degrees, and you can put 1 rack in the middle and you can put the other rack towards the top. You can choose now, I'm gonna cook them basically in the middle, but if you wanted to get more color, you can broil them on both sides at the end for like a minute. Okay, so I got my hands wet. And I'm gonna grab a good amount. All right, once you got a good amount, kind of flatten it again. Take a piece of mozzarella, and then really make sure that you get that into the center of the meatball. Okay, that's pretty good in the center. And then just do a little roll with your hands. And there you have a beautiful meatball. Big meatball that holds that mozzarella. Put it right there. See, there's nothing really on my hands. So, because if you don't do this, if you don't keep dipping in water or oil, you're gonna get it all over your hands. You're gonna have to keep going back to the sink, and it's gonna be a mess. And it turns out I'm not gonna need anywhere near that much mozzarella, but I'll just save it. I'll use it for something else. Okay, flatten it out again. Another piece of mozzarella, same thing, roll it up. You know, you can use caciocavallo in here. You can use, I mean, you can use any cheese you want. Fontina would be great. Fontina is a great cheese, I love it. I didn't need anywhere near that much mozzarella. These are huge, and they needed to be big enough to fit that nice sized block of mozzarella in there. I'm gonna cook these probably, I'd say 30 minutes, 400. Just check them. When they hit 165, they're done. You can turn them over at the halfway point if you're worried about them getting a little squashed from the weight, but they're gonna be fine either way. While those meatballs, they've been in for 7 minutes, they're not even close to done yet. You can make a really quick sauce, and you can do this a ton of different ways. I don't have any basil today. It's none in my fridge, and we're in winter now, so I'm not growing it. Okay, I'm gonna put a little bit of extra virgin olive oil in here. You can use regular olive oil too. Just coat the pan. Garlic. Might be a little bit high. It's gonna get golden very quickly. That's okay. Once it gets golden, just add in your tomatoes. If you want hot pepper, and I do, just put a little bit in. And now that we got nice golden color on those pieces of garlic, get the tomatoes in. Yep, and that was a little high, but it's fine. I just lowered it. And probably you need a bigger pan. A lot of times I use these smaller pans simply just so I can show you guys inside of it. You know, ideally use a higher wall pan so if it does splatter, it doesn't splatter all over you like that. But that flavor right from the garlic when that hits that tomato, so good. You can just keep this at a very low simmer. Taste it for salt and pepper. This is Sclafani. Normally I end up putting in about a half a teaspoon of salt for their tomatoes. These are great tomatoes. Unbelievable quality tomato for the price. I mean, just blows away stuff that's $3, $4 a can. And I heard some people finding these in Walmart for like $1.29 a can. And they work great for pizza sauce too. You can strain them a little bit in a mesh strainer, take a little bit of water out of them, use them for your pizza. And I had a little problem with these. They were probably too moist. They needed more breadcrumbs. The more breadcrumbs you put in, the less tender and moist your meatball is gonna be. But because they are baking on this sheet here, they'll be a little tougher, you know? Yeah. But because they were very soft and you put them on a baking sheet, they can tend to compress, and a couple of them opened up. You can see the mozzarella sticking out. See the mozzarella on here, James? These are stuffed with mozzarella. That's the difference. But let's give you one right now. I'm actually gonna give you the broken one, I think, just because I gotta take a picture next. It's gonna be just as good. I can see the mozzarella right there. The way I like to serve this is with a plate of sauce on the bottom. So like this. Maybe we'll give you this one, okay? What do you think? Yeah. You can see how the meat even like went through it. And I think we put a little bit more pecorino on top of it. I'm gonna take it too. Oh, I can see it coming out right there. Let's show people.
Ooh, yeah,
okay,
that's
it is.
Good. You see that right there?
It's gonna be cooler now.
Yeah.
Let me try too.
Still good.
Mmm. Oh, sauce is so good too. He's gonna become a pro at this. All right, thanks, pal. Here, hug.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
thank you.
Yeah,
Yep,
all right,
so.
just one more bite.